Uprising of Jews against Nazis. The major uprising started around mid 1943 as a result of brutal policies and mass killing strategies of Nazis. Now we will see in the further slides that how the uprising proceeded and how it was ultimately suppressed and what were the reasons behind its failure. Resistance, responses and collaboration. At each stage of Nazis' persecution of Jews and others that they deemed undesirable, people resisted their rule, responded to their policies, and collaborated with them in a variety of ways. Resistance. Despite the repression of their opponents, resistance to the Nazis occurred throughout their time in power. The resistance manifested in different ways. Some people joined organized groups of resistance, some participated in armed uprising, some refused to do Hitler's salute and were assassinated, and others produced secret writings, some went into hiding. Responses. The uprising got a mixed type of reaction from people. Some people tried to flee away from the country, some resisted Nazis, and some were passive about it. Between 1933 and 1941, many Jews decided to emigrate from Poland in response to increasing Nazi persecution. By September 1939, approximately 282,000 Jews had emigrated from Germany, and approximately 117,000 had emigrated from Austria. But some people decided to revolt against Jews, and in response to this, many groups were formed, such as Youth Baum Group. The Baum Group was an underground resistance movement based in Berlin and led by Herbert and Marianne Baum. The group was founded shortly after Nazis' rise to power in 1933, and its members were mostly young Jews who had Zionist and communist sympathies. Prior to the Second World War, the group focused on producing anti-Nazi leaflets and anti-fascist graffiti. Partisans and Bielski brothers. The Bielski brothers were a group of partisans who survived the Holocaust by hiding in the forests of Belarusia. After their parents and the two of the siblings were murdered by the Nazis in Novgorod ghetto, Tuvia, Aisel, and Zusbelski escaped, fled to the nearby forest. Initially, their aim was to simply survive and rescue their own family. However, the group soon grew and helped others to escape. By 1942, the group had grown to over 700 people. Intellectuals, the White Rose Group. The White Rose was a non-Jewish resistance group created by Professor Kurt Herber and his students at the University of Munich. The group primarily focused on creating and distributing anti-Nazi pamphlets and anti-Nazi graffiti. They criticized the Nazis' persecution and oppression of Jews and called for wider resistance to Nazi rule. Suppressing of the revolt. Following from the start of the Second World War in 1939, the Nazis imprisoned hundreds of thousands of Jews in ghettos across occupied Europe. In response to imprisonment, around 100 underground resistance movements developed within the ghettos. These movements resisted Nazi rule through distribution of illegal newspapers and radios. But armed uprisings were difficult to organize, as most ghettos had high security measures, and if resistors were caught, they faced harsh punishments. Despite these obstacles, several armed uprisings did take place. The most famous of these uprisings was the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, which took place from 19th April 1943 to 16th May 1943. In addition to the uprising in Warsaw, several smaller uprisings took place, such as Białystok Ghetto Uprising. Despite the desperate efforts of these involved, most of the uprisings were quickly crushed by Nazis. Most of those involved were either killed while fighting or caught, tortured, and deported to extermination camps. Now we will see the difference between uh, Jews uprising and Indian independence movement. There was no central leader in the Jewish uprisings, whereas in Indian case, the presence of central leaders in revolt movements guided the path to independence. Jewish people were submissive and did not retain their values, and every one of them were guided by their own self-interest, and every one of them tried to just save themselves and not thinking about others. Indian people retained their values of self-reliance taught by Gandhiji, and movements like non-cooperation movement, Quit India movement, Poon Swaraj movement. These big movements shook the control of British over India and ultimately they forced to leave. But with Jewish case, there was not a single event, uprising, which achieved the status of national importance, and hence ultimately no pressure was built on Nazis. Now I would like to conclude this by an important saying. Most of the important things in the world have been achieved by people who had kept on trying when there seemed no hope to be at all. By Dale Carnegie. I think the Jews didn't have the mettle and the spirit of pressing hard against the oppression and coercion by Nazis, which ultimately resulted in the death of millions of them.